Sports are supposed to be fun, and the rules protect the players from harm. But those rules have only come to place through often great sacrifice by the players of the past. This is certainly true in regard to the case of 4 sports competitors who have one thing in common. Each of their tragedies changed the rules of their respective sports forever and had a profound impact on both athletes and fans alike. Welcome to Facts Fanatics, where we endeavor to bring you fascinating true stories from history that will have you on the edge of your seat. We'll start with perhaps the most infamous sports death in history, the death of Ray Chapman during a Major League Baseball game in 1920. Ray Chapman was a strong, talented baseball player with a lot of potential. He had recently married before the end of the season, making him even more dedicated to his game and achieving success on the field. He had indicated that the 1920 season was possibly going to be his last. Not only did he have a batting average of .300, but he was an expert bunter. He's also the 6th highest sacrifice hitter of all time, with 67 sacrifice hits in the 1917 season. On August 16, 1920, Chapman, a shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, faced off against a New York Yankees pitcher, Carl Mays. Carl Mays was an erratic pitcher who seemed to have a knack for dominating opposing batters. Carl Mays was best known for his signature pitch, known as the submarine pitch. This unique type of pitch involved tossing the ball from underhand, which set it on an unexpected trajectory that often caught batters off guard. Because of its steep trajectory, the submarine pitch was notorious for its speed and accuracy, 2 qualities that made Mays a dominant pitcher during his career. At the time, pitchers commonly dirtied balls with various substances in order to compromise their aerodynamics and impair the hitter's ability to track them. Pitchers would often routinely scuff, sandpaper, scar, cut, or put dirt on balls in order to make them more difficult for hitters to gauge, and Mays was no exception. On that day, it was late afternoon when Mays threw a pitch that struck the skull of Ray Chapman. Though he did not react at all to the ball when it came into contact with his head, the loud sound of the impact caused Mays to assume that he had struck either Chapman's bat or glove. He fielded the ball and threw it to first base as normal. When home plate umpire Tommy Connolly noticed that Chapman was bleeding from his left ear, he quickly shouted out for a doctor. Tris Speaker, Chapman's teammate, who had been on deck when the incident occurred, rushed to Chapman's side along with several players from both teams. With the help of his teammates, Chapman was able to walk off the field, but he soon collapsed and fell unconscious. After being transported to St. Lawrence Hospital, Chapman died from brain damage due to blunt force trauma. His pregnant wife, Katie, arrived at the hospital soon after and was grief-stricken upon hearing about her husband's death. Despite his untimely death at the hands of Carl Mays, Ray Chapman's legacy lives on. His death led to several rule changes in baseball, including the requirement that all balls be replaced after they become dirty or wet, and the banning of spitballs, a type of illicit pitch which was believed to have contributed to Chapman's death. In addition, Chapman's death spurred the development of safer batting helmets, as he was the first Major League player to die as a result of being hit by a pitch. Next on our list is the death of Duk Koo Kim. Duk Koo Kim, born on January 29, 1955, was a South Korean boxer who competed in the lightweight division. During his brief career, Kim compiled an impressive record of 17 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, with 8 knockouts. Kim was a remarkable man who overcame incredible odds in his life. At just 23 years old, he had been poor for most of his life and had suffered tremendous loss, including the death of his father at the age of 2. Despite these hardships, however, Kim was determined to build a better life for himself. He eventually found success as a fighter. His final match will be memorable for time eternal. His loss came at the hands of Ray Mancini in a title bout for the World Boxing Association Lightweight Championship on November 13, 1982. The fight was held at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, and was televised live. When Duke Koo Kim stepped into the arena outside of Caesar's Palace to face Mancini, he was largely unknown to the American boxing community. This was his first time fighting in North America. Prior to their match in 1982, Kim had made his way to the #1 challenger ranking by picking up the Orient and Pacific Boxing Federation lightweight titles. Despite his success, many Americans dismissed him as another foreign boxer hoping for a big break. However, once the fight started, Kim quickly proved that he was more than just an average up-and-comer. Kim fought relentlessly throughout the match, pushing Mancini to his limits with a series of hits that seemed nearly impossible for anyone else to land. The match was highly competitive, with both fighters displaying exceptional skill and stamina. During the 13th round, Mancini was clearly in the lead, having delivered 44 consecutive punches at an astonishing rate of speed. However, as the round progressed and Kim held on with renewed fortitude, it became clear that he might have enough energy left to mount a comeback. When the starting bell rang in the 14th round, Mancini pounced his opponent. However, Kim landed a punch at the American boxer. Mancini then caught Kim with a hard right hand that sent Kim crashing to the canvas. Kim managed to slowly get back on his feet, but he was clearly dazed and unsteady. After letting Kim try to get up, the referee eventually stopped the bout, and Duke Koo Kim was rushed to the hospital. He never regained consciousness and died 4 days later from brain injuries. Ray Mancini blamed himself for the death and was never the same. In addition, Kim's death was not the only one that occurred as a result of that fight. Kim's mother, who had flown to the U.S. to be with her dying son in his final moments, found herself uncontrollably grieving the tragic loss of her loved son. In March of 1983, just 3 months after Kim's passing, Kim's mother tragically died by suicide when she drank a bottle of pesticide. Referee Richard Green was yet another example of this reality, as he took his own life amid reportedly developing and worsening mental health issues. The death of Duke Koo Kim had a profound impact on the sport of boxing. In the wake of this tragedy, several changes were made in an effort to make the sport safer for fighters. The Nevada State Athletic Commission introduced a standing 8 count, which allows a referee to call a knockdown even if the boxer is not actually down but is in danger of being knocked down. This rule has become standard practice in many boxing matches today. Additionally, boxers' licenses are now suspended for 45 days following a knockout loss as an additional safeguard against an athlete suffering lasting damage from being knocked out repeatedly. Perhaps the most significant change that resulted from the Mancini-Kim fight was the reduction of title fights from 15 rounds to 12. Following this match, both professional and amateur governing bodies changed their regulations to match this new standard, a decision that proved decisive in saving many lives and preventing further injuries among pro athletes in boxing. Last on our list is the death of Blaise Alexander. Blaise Alexander, born March 2, 1976, was an American race car driver. He competed in the NASCAR Busch Series. But before we can talk about Blaise Alexander, we must address the death of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt was one of the most legendary auto racing drivers of all time. Known as the Intimidator, he was known for his aggressive and daring style on the racetrack, putting him in a class with other famous racing legends like A.J. Foyt and Mario Andretti. Tragically, however, on February 18, 2001, Earnhardt was killed in a final lap collision during the Daytona 500 race, while it was televised to 17 million people. Accounts of his fatal crash indicate that the injuries he sustained were due to a basilar skull fracture, which proved instantly fatal despite efforts to save his life at the nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. He was the 4th driver to die from similar injuries in an 8-month span. Despite calls for more safety in the sport and the death of the sport's beloved hero, NASCAR didn't fully mandate safety changes until after the accident on October 4, 2001. On October 4, 2001, at the Easy Care 100 race at the Lowe's Motors Speedway on October 4, 2001, Blaise Alexander was involved in a serious accident. During the 63rd lap of the race, he was battling for the lead position with Kerry Earnhardt, the oldest son of Dale Earnhardt Jr., when Earnhardt had to hit his brakes to avoid hitting a slower car. This caused Alexander's car to catch up and collide with Earnhardt's, sending him crashing into the wall and flipping over onto his roof. Earnhardt came away unscathed and quickly jumped out of his car to see Alexander, but the race officials stopped Earnhardt and let the emergency crew attend to Alexander. Alexander was pronounced dead at the medical center with a basilar skull fracture at the age of 25. After the tragic death of popular Earnhardt Jr. and then Alexander, the sport responded with an intensive focus on safety. In order to protect drivers from serious head and neck injuries, officials introduced the mandatory use of head and neck restraints along with rigorous new inspection rules for seats and seatbelts. They also began installing specially designed safer barriers, collision cushions that absorb impact at high speeds, at oval tracks across the country, as well as developing a roof hatch escape system and the car of tomorrow, the next generation race car designed with even more protection for drivers in mind. This rule change has undoubtedly saved the lives of many NASCAR drivers over the years. In fact, the last fatality in the NASCAR Cup Series was in 2001. The deaths of Ray Chapman, Duke Kukim, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Blaze Alexander are just examples of how tragedies in sports can lead to positive changes in safety regulations. In each case, the governing body of the sport responded with new rules and regulations designed to prevent similar accidents from happening again. And while we can never completely eliminate the risk of injury or death in sports, these changes have undoubtedly made them safer for all involved. We hope that you've enjoyed hearing about these stories and will like and subscribe to our channel to hear more fascinating stories in history. Until then, we look forward to seeing you next time.